All right, hello everyone. I am Zane Van Wyk from Van Wyk Productions Live here, and I am joined by Raj Jawa. He is the 16th Doctor, and also I'm joined by Abbie Brown, who is voicing the new companion, Maxine Powers. Say hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, so um, we'll start this interview by asking kind of a general question for the both of you, and you can answer it as short or as long as you want to. So, essentially, how did you guys come about like finding out about the roles of like the Doctor and Maxine Powers? Whoever wants to go.
Abbie, please.
All right. Well, I actually am fairly new to the voice acting world, and I kind of made a connection with Van Wyk Studios through the Lost Jedi audio drama that I know is that's in production right now.
Yep.
And I auditioned for that, got a little role, and then Zane contacted me and said, "Hey, you interested in a role that's a series regular?" And I was like, yes, I'm interested in all the characters because that's what we do. So I auditioned for the role. I got a sense of the character, and I really love her so far, what I know of her, just her personality and her story and everything about that. And I'm currently in the process of educating myself more deeply on Doctor Who itself as a story and as a series of stories and whatnot. And yeah, that's my story.
Awesome.
I connected with Zane through another just completely unrelated project. I believe called New Journeys. I'm not sure what's going on with that on your end.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Okay, you seem very busy.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you. I told Abbie, but yeah, the list of projects I have has been growing, so it is on its way. I do promise that, though.
No, don't worry, it's great. No, so I auditioned for that, and I did I actually don't remember the name of the character anymore, but I did a pretty large role in that short. And yeah, you contacted me to be the 16th Doctor, and I too don't know that much about Doctor Who. I too am learning and exploring this universe, as Abbie mentioned, and yeah, I was just surprised and very eager to jump in. So that's kind of how it happened.
Nice. Now, with you both, basically you're learning as you go with knowing what Doctor Who in general is, and then kind of like the the route that my series has gone with in the past and going forward. So based on what you kind of know right now, like story wise progressing forward, what's I guess one or two things that you guys are looking forward to, like with the character, and like what's something that you hope to like kind of leave people, like what impression, I guess, are you hoping to leave people with after they like hear your characters for the first time or like even for the last time?
I would say for me, one of my favorite things, like the first thing that I fell in love with about Maxine is just her willingness to sacrifice a lot for what's right and like to fight to protect people. And I think that I want people to come away from hearing these things, not just saying, "Oh, that was an entertaining, fun story," but also getting a little bit of like, you know what? I want to be like that. I want to be strong and willing to stand up for what's good and make a difference in the world. And I want that same thing for myself. Like, I want to take something away from this character and say, I'm going to be a stronger, more loving person because I see this character can do it. And it just reminds me that I want to be a better person like that.
Yeah. For myself, I mean, I'm eager to really have more interactions with some of the other characters, actually, because I I popped in at the very end of the last episode.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm eager to see more of the development of this character in your eyes. And I think part of the fear of it is because this is such it's the Doctor character. So I feel like there is an expectation to uphold that I don't want to let down. So I think that's definitely in the back of my head too.
Yeah, and Raj, you're definitely right because I know for my Doctor, I voiced the 11th Doctor for the series, and now I am not here to toot my own horn because I'm not that type of person. I don't. Some people are like, well, you should really promote yourself more, and I see where they are coming with that, but at the same time, I'm one of those people that I don't like bragging about myself. I don't, but that being said, there have been some people like because in the actual BBC like TV's show, there was like in the actual 11th Doctor played by Matt Smith. Um, Now some people have actually come up to me and be like, "Well, we're not like super fond of the television 11th Doctor. Like we like him, but we're not like super fond like." Most people are like, well, we like David Tennant or we like, Christopher Eccleston and like those are the normals. But they're like, but your 11th Doctor kind of has a better story, has a better kind of like feeling to him. And it almost feels like that's how like the direction they should have gone with their 11th Doctor. And, honestly, when I get told stuff like that, like first off, I'm like, whoa. There's no way I am better than Matt Smith's 11th Doctor because that's where my Doctor drew inspiration from because I love his Doctor. I do. And that's why I, kind of wanted to voice the 11th Doctor because of him. But when people tell me, yeah, your Doctor's actually like, we really like to hear your Doctor. Like his just kind of how he is because at the beginning, my 11th Doctor, he was a little he was playful and he was like kind of I want to say a little naive. Like he didn't think all the world was like or I guess the universe was as bad as it really was. But like by the third season of my 11th Doctor audio series, he comes back from an event that erases him for like a decade, then he comes back by some miraculous it's weird because the third season tied into the third season of a live action version of my series, so the two kind of crisscrossed. But anyways, essentially when he came back in that third season, he was a little more bitter, a little more aware of everything around him, and he literally just did not give a crap about a lot of things. Like he didn't put up with anything. And luckily, I think with your Doctor, I think he'll start to kind of, get used to everything because granted, your Doctor came off of like quite the final adventure of the 15th. Like, because, which some of those characters do come back in the first season, which I kind of tease at the end. But yeah, so your Doctor, now I don't know if your Doctor's going to go quite the path mine did or the other ones I've wrote for. We'll see how I write you. I don't think we'll go that way, but again, that's kind of the beauty of being like voicing the character though. Like one thing can be written on a script one way, but how you guys actually like voice it can take it a different direction. Which I like in voice actors because it's fun to kind of explore different pathways with everything, and it's also nice to kind of mix it up. So but back to the initial point, yes, Raj, there is definitely a kind of a precedence on how a Doctor has to be, but at the same time, from personal experience, make it your own. Because yes, you do have to live up to the Doctor's, how the Doctor has to be, but at the same time, it is your Doctor. So I mean, if there's something you want to make your doctor do, like more and more, then have that be a common trait with them. Stuff like that. So, but yes, and same could be said about the companion, because most companions, people are like, well, they have, some are like damsel in distress, and some are like the badass fighters, which Maxine kind of is, but people also like good, strong companions. So so there is definitely some pressure in that aspect to being a companion as well. So but I will stop rambling on and we'll move forward from there. But okay, so with that being said, so both of you don't really know too much about Doctor Who. So what do you know as of right now? Like what's the basic thing you know about Doctor Who in general, just from like maybe hearing about it from friends or hearing it from media sources, stuff like that? Like what's besides this series, what's kind of been your exposure to it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I feel like, well, the only Doctor Who that I'm aware of that I've visually seen is the David Tennant Doctor Who, and I think what I like about him is he's very animated. He's almost like a Mr. Bean Doctor Who in his not in his like slapstick silliness, but he's very expressive, very he doesn't feel stuffy, and I think that's what I really like about his version. And I don't know the series, so maybe they all have a different flair, kind of like James Bond. You have Roger Moore, who was much more of the jokey, but he had his own debonair, versus a Sean Connery, who was nothing but just like, I do this and that, and the women, he's just like, I think as far as Doctor Who, I think I really like David Tennant, but that's my exposure too. That's all I really know.
All right. And Abbie, what exposure have you had, or have you had any besides the series?
I have. So I am currently watching the Christopher Eccleston series, and I'm enjoying it. But I also have done some just literal research, like looking up what is Doctor Who about? What are the characters? What is it to be a companion? And I mean, it makes me sound really nerdy, which I accept. I am a nerd.
You are part of Doctor Who. That is a definite, like, that's something you need to have. Like,
yeah,
I wear that as a badge. Like, I am fully nerd. I'm going to totally admit that. So that's perfectly natural.
But yes, even about something as nerdy as Doctor Who, which of course we love, I'm the nerd who actually goes and looks it up on Wikipedia, and it's like, interesting. And did you know most people didn't actually see the series that said that doctors can only regenerate 12 times? But all these random little facts or whatever. But yeah, that's my exposure has mostly been through that, and also, honestly, Pinterest, because I have a bunch of friends that I follow who post a lot of Doctor Who stuff.
Oh yeah. Pinterest, I think, was it Pinterest and Tumblr? I think that are like the main ones that I know. I don't have Tumblr, but I have so many friends that tell me about it. So it's like, yeah, I hear things, but I'm not gonna talk about all that. But anyways, yes. But cool, awesome. That's awesome. So at least you guys do have a little exposure. So that's a good thing. And yeah, so let's kind of shift from Doctor Who centric to kind of personal preferences now. Now I did talk to both of you kind of a little bit before like everything started up, but so kind of tell me, and I know Abbie, I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but like what kind of got you guys started, into just like voice acting in general, and then like kind of what's been the journey, and like do you see it as like a constant in the future, or do you see you kind of exploring other options and just kind of keeping it as like kind of a side thing?
For me, I would say this is yes, it's a new thing for me to be into voice acting. I come from a stage background. I've been acting for a long time on stage and musical theater, and in fact, I am going to college for musical theater starting in the fall, assuming things are in fact going to happen in the fall. But yeah, my background is mostly stage, and as obviously, you know, as we've been stuck at home, it's been a lot easier to be involved with voice acting things because it's such an easy work from home kind of situation. But I also have just been interested in voiceover for a long time. Ultimately, my goal would actually be film and voiceover on the side kind of thing. So yeah, I'm new to the game right now, but I've been acting for a long time, and I definitely love it and want to continue pursuing it.
Nice.
I'm unfortunately a bit on the cynical end. I've been doing this for a while on the live action and not too much stage for me, but I started in like student films, and I actually started in film production. I have my associate's degree in film and television production, but I got into acting, and yeah, I've kind of gotten to the point where I've done it a lot. And I'm kind of at that point where I'm exploring other options. I still love it. But you know, I'm 33 years old, and I'm as young as I realize that is, my body is starting to hurt, and I realize that I realize I don't have that many. I don't have that long of my life to earn, so I need to use those years to the max I can, and acting doesn't always pay the bills. So I'm trying to rectify those two ideas together.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's half the reason I have two jobs right now. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So Raj, kind of follow up then. So, obviously, you know, you said you still like voice acting, you still like being a part of it, but you know, obviously you are looking for like other avenues to possibly go down. So like what's something that possibly like kind of sparks your interest for like another avenue to go down, kind of with like all the experience that you've had and whatnot?
At this point, I wish I had a good answer for that. I had a lucky upbringing because I didn't have to worry too much about money growing up. So that's how I got into film so easily. You know, it was easy to not have to worry about making an income. So I just started getting into it. And it didn't matter if I was just losing money, you know, paying for audition sites or this and that, because you're just in it. You're just in it, and that's what you do. You're making an investment. And I think now that motivation, that passion has kind of moved toward more practical things, money specifically. And I feel I'm a kind of person who feels kind of gross saying that. I don't like to think of money that way. I don't like to think about making it, honestly, at all. But if we could just all just live our lives and not have to worry about money, that would be awesome. That's my goal. But until that day, I think I look at the possibility of like a UX design path. There's a school out here and in Los Angeles actually called General Assembly, and they offer income share agreements to go into various aspects of coding and help you get a job. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, especially because I've never really had a job before. I've never auditioned. Okay. I've never interviewed for a job. So I don't really look, I'm not really, you're going to see my resume and it's going to not look positive. So I need that help. I need that boost to get in, you know? So my motivation, I've gone the Richard Dreyfuss path, if you want to take it the most positive, because I used to make fun of him or not think positive of him, because he's like, oh, he's just doing these movies for money. He talked to an interview. He's like, why did you do Poseidon? The money. I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Yeah. But you know what? I get it. I get it now, because sometimes that is the best thing you take away from this business. But I've had a lot of fun as well. I can't say that I didn't. I've enjoyed every day I've done of this of in film, and I'm sure I will continue to as well.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. I know one thing. Well, one thing for me, like my parents were always pretty, and I'm glad they were. They were pretty on me like around, oh gosh, like age 16, age 15, to kind of start looking for a job to start, making my own money. Because I was getting to the point where I was asking my parents for gas money when I was running low on, gas. And it's like, well, maybe you should start making your own money, and paying for it yourself. And it's like, yeah, you have a point there. But I've gone through, the interview process for a few jobs. I know my most current job I had to interview, I had to do, it was a 2-step interview. So I had the initial interview with the main manager of the store, and then I had to do basically a follow-up interview with the guy to kind of see where does my interests in the job and where's the interest of the company kind of meet, and if they feel like I'm a good person for the job. Sure. Which that's, for the most part, that's usually pretty common. Because, usually most of the companies that are good try to usually do like a background check on you. So that way they're knowing what they're getting into. And there's like, well, is this person done XYZ, or have they not done XYZ, or have they actually spent the years of this job that they, say they did, or etc. But there have been some interviews that I've even done for the film editing side of things, where, I mean, I'll be serious here. Like, I think those interviews have been the toughest interviews I've ever had to do. One, because the film industry, as well, especially the post-production editing aspect of it, that grows month by month. Like, there's something new every month. And unfortunately, by the time I graduated college, they weren't teaching that stuff yet. So it's kind of up to me to kind of catch up with everybody. And with, me working full-time jobs and part-time jobs to pay the bills, it's like, when do I have time to actually catch up to where the industry is now? And then you have people asking like, well, do you have like a 5 years experience? Or it's like, no, but I would love if you could help me get there. Right. Sadly, that's not how it works. But yeah, so yeah, I know exactly, where you're coming from, like wanting to get like an actual job, going through the interview process, stuff like that. And some jobs, especially for what you're going through, I mean, I'm sure it's at first it's going to be like, I don't want to say easy, but it's going to kind of be different for you.
For sure.
So, but nonetheless, sometimes there's things that surprise us. So, you never know what could happen. But hey, I know you'll still keep doing voice acting, but I do hope whatever avenue you do tend to fully explore, I hope it goes well for you, or at least gets you in the right direction towards what you want to go towards.
Thanks very much.
No problem. All right, so personal time. No, I'm kidding. So okay, let's see here. Give me a sec here. Had a few questions submitted to me. I want to try to sprinkle in here too. So let's see here. Okay. Oh, well, we've kind of touched on this, but I guess someone did ask it. So one of the people that are fans of the series, and I do collaborate with them too, sent in the question. So what are your guys's well, what were your guys' first impression of Zane, even before you spoke to him, and then kind of as of like getting to know him better, like how do you feel moving forward? Do you really want to keep working with him, or do you want to do the series and then say goodbye? Very specific question, but that's
all that was in the question. Wow.
Well, you kind of have to know the guy to.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, essentially that's yeah. So I'll let whoever wants to be brutally honest, please. I can take it.
I was just gonna say, I'll be honest. When I read and did New Journey, I was like, this is a little odd, because that there is some oddity in that script. I don't want to give anything away, but
Nope.
it is a little different where it goes adventure wise. But yeah, no, I in listening to you today and working with you thus far, I'm excited and I really like your passion, and I think it's going to be fun. You have a drive that I haven't seen in a while, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also, when I first started being in contact with you, Zane, I was, if I'm being honest, I was like really nervous and scared because, again, I'm super new to this, and I was like, oh my gosh, he wants me to be a stormtrooper in the Star Wars thing? What? And I was like so excited and like jittery and like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh, he's a person. He's just like a normal person. That thing where you're like, oh my gosh, they're like a superhero and I can't talk to them. And then, yeah, obviously I got to know you better and you know, continue to work with you on this new thing. And
right.
I've enjoyed our interactions, and I also have been really impressed with just your skill and talent in the things that you do. I know you have a lot going on. You're really busy, but you also, I mean, not only do you have a lot of projects going at a time, as well as 2 jobs, you also you play a lot of roles within those, you know, producer, editor, etc. And I've just been really impressed with your skill at doing those things, like your skill with script writing and composition. It's really impressed me.
Well, thank you. I don't feel no. I was going to say I don't feel attacked, but no. Thank you. And I promise to the viewers I did not pay them to say any of this. So this is all genuine stuff. I promise there's no bribes here. Raj, I'll talk to you later. No, I'm kidding. But okay, but awesome. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna look here, see if I have another one here. Okay, so the main antagonist of season 1 for the 16th Doctor audio is the Shakri. Now they were teased at the end of the last 15th Doctor episode, the Paradoxical Dilemma. Now, in that last scene, and before I even go on, if you have not seen the last 15th Doctor episode, which it is an hour and 26 minutes long, but I've had a lot of people say it kind of goes by fast, which I'm glad, because editing definitely did not go by fast at all. It took, I think, at least 2 weeks to do. But at the end, you know, we also had the Metal Kind, Mr. Graves, which is one of the characters I voice, and then Miss Ashwood was revealed to still kind of be around by the end of the 15th episode. So based on, well, I guess Raj, you know a little bit more about this because you saw the script and you voiced, you know, your doctor towards the end of the episode. But Abbie, probably not quite as much since you haven't really had too much exposure to it yet. So based on what you guys do know about the Shakri, like, what are kind of you guys' thoughts of them? And I guess Raj, I guess part two for you is kind of what's your thoughts on um, like the other, I guess, partners coming back from that episode that your doctor first premiered in.
God, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that. Really, I think it's just gonna be something that's gonna have to play out. Because yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know. It's something I'm looking forward to seeing. Actually,
Yeah, I
Uh,
would say I'm glad that Shakri is not real.
Mhm.
You want my thoughts on it? Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about this backstory, especially like in this series, and I'm excited to look into that more. And I'm also thinking that it's really cool the way that the 15th and 16th Doctor are playing into each other's worlds, like how that progression. I mean, it's not just like a clean cut and then things are just new again. Like these stories keep coming back and themes return and characters return. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and you bring up a good point there, Abby. So I guess this is a follow up question, probably a little bit easier to ask than the last one, Raj. But so you did hear a little bit, kind of how the 15th Doctor was, and I think for the most part, you can kind of get a general idea of what she was like. So based on like what you've heard of the 15th Doctor, are there any traits of her Doctor that you might like keep or incorporate into your Doctor, or are you kind of going a clean slate with yours?
um, I think I'm going the clean slate route, to be perfectly honest, because I think I see aspects, but I definitely wanted it to take it in my own direction, especially, and you gave me certain directions when we were starting as well, and certain choices, and I think I really like pursuing it in my own direction. To be honest, I think that's I don't know. I found there's a certain joy of discovery in doing it that way.
Awesome. Okay. Because I know um, with previous doctors, even before the 15th Doctor, the 12th Doctor, the 13th, and the 14th. Um, the 12th and the 13th kind of played off each other, but you could definitely tell there was quite the difference between how both doctors acted and how they, reacted to different situations. And obviously, the only like I guess the main thing connecting each other is the fact that you have the kind of the story arc just kind of bleeding into this next season or the first season for you, but that's about it from the 15th Doctor. So I mean, hearing you say that you're going like the clean slate route makes perfect sense, because I mean, yeah, like the 15th Doctor, she's basically done her run. It's like, okay, we know her story now. Here's my story. Like here's where I pick up like the baton and where I run with it. So yeah, so that's awesome. Um, all right, so then I'm just gonna also look here, try to sprinkle in some more questions that were submitted. Some of these we've already answered. So let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, so I guess one question, and this is kind of a question for fun. So have as much fun with it as you want. So obviously you haven't gone through the full characteristics of your characters yet, but like in your own minds, if your characters could do one thing, like for instance, for my 11th Doctor, the one thing that he always wanted to do was go on a vacation. Did he ever do that? Absolutely not, because the universe was constantly getting saved by who knows what. But like for your Dr. Raj and then for your companion, Abbie, you know, obviously there's something that they kind of, I guess, what's the release for your characters that, in your minds at least, you would think, well, this would probably be something they want to do like on their free time when they're not, you know, trying to save the city or the universe or, you know, you name it.
I think I'd like to ride a roller coaster. Honestly, like it just sounds. I mean, I've ridden a roller coaster before, but it just sounds. It's the first thing that pops into my head when I think about like what I would do as the Doctor. Honestly, it has a certain imagery to it that I just like.
Interesting. Okay. I honestly didn't see it going that direction, so that's
I didn't either. I just said words and they came out, and that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. I would honestly, it's hard to even imagine Maxine not being on the move. But I think probably if she got to a place where she wasn't stressed out about anything, or like probably not stressed out, that's not the right word for her. Busy and occupied and trying to do things. My first thought is she would probably want to just like eat dinner with her friends, just like sit down and have a meal and like decompress and be like, you know what we just did? We just fought a war. That was crazy. I'm tired.
See, personally for me, and I don't know if I'm going to write this in or not, but like, see, for at least for Maxine, like I see her like day off, like spending the whole day at like a shooting range or something like that. Like, just based on her background, it's like I feel like she'd have a really good release from going to something like of that caliber, like just to blow off some steam or something like that. But I can't say anything for your Dr. Raj, because even though I'm writing it, I cannot think of anything that I don't know, because obviously we haven't quite developed it that much, but like, yeah, I don't know. So I guess we'll just stick with riding a roller coaster for right now. But hey, I mean, roller coasters are fun, so who knows? But okay, but yeah, that's okay. So totally different direction than I thought it'd go, but I love it. So we will roll with that. Okay, here's a question though that I think hopefully, yeah, I think you guys could maybe draw from. So any character you see on TV, you see in audios, you see on, well, heck, in video games, stuff like that, pretty much any form of media, a character has, or as I should say, the person behind the character always has a certain inspiration towards the character they are voicing. Like I know, luckily I was able to go 1 year to C2E2 and listen to one of Troy Baker's panels, and he even shook me, and which that was something I will never forget. But he was using it for an example. But you know, he was telling me, because I think it was for The Last of Us, I think the first one, like he told us like basically what he had to do when he was in the recording studio, like and at the time that he was recording, he had told us, he's like, yeah, I was going through a lot of crap at that time. Like his personal life was like in crumbles. Like he wasn't really doing well physically. He had some issues with his family, stuff like that. But there was he was doing different takes for the character he's voicing, and the producer was like, well, there's some good ones in here, but we haven't quite hit that that perfect one. And he literally told us he thought of the one thing that kind of inspired him to get that perfect take was he thought back on what all he had, and he even told us, he said, yeah, I almost mentally had a breakdown before I finally was able to get to that point where I was able to deliver it perfectly. Now, I'm not saying you two need to go quite that far, but I'm just saying that's from one that's like a professional in the industry, went that far to kind of get the inspiration for the character. So with that kind of in mind, for your characters, what's something you guys kind of want to draw off of that already exists, but maybe even from personal experience, if any?
That's a good question. It's a hard one too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it, what went in it for me was what I knew of Doctor Who, which was the David Tennant character, and knowing I wanted to go in a different, slightly different direction with it, but at least having that base understood. And then you know what, I pull a lot from being a live action actor, and I put myself in it and picture myself there. I think that's pretty much how because I don't have an extensive acting training. I went to acting classes, but a lot of them were just practice it, and the more you say it, the better you're going to say it, and you're going to do it. It wasn't here's this great technique. It was just you're doing acting. As long as you're getting comfortable and getting natural, you're doing it. But when you have to heighten your emotions, you have to kind of put yourself in that place. And that's kind of what I do. The same when I'm looking at the microphone here in the corner, I just stare at it and imagine I'm seeing the other person and relaying that emotion as naturally and as truly as I can.
Yeah, throughout my years of acting, I've definitely found different things that have worked better for me, and different layers that I can add to that to make it better. For this, I think in just a very literal physical way, I definitely think I'm going to draw on character, other characters that I've seen, and even maybe people I know for this character. But in terms of acting and how I get that emotion, or portraying a character who's not me, who's going through a different thing in her life than I am, I would have to agree. Obviously, there's this putting yourself in their place, seeing things through the character's eyes, even if you don't always agree with what they are thinking, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, but just seeing anything that they're going to think or say is probably something that you could think or say in a different way or in a different circumstance or whatever. And so that just makes it a really, that's what helps make it natural, right? And also I think I have a tendency to overact sometimes. So for me personally, just realizing you're just playing a person. It's not, again, it's just a real person, not somebody, completely crazy and different. It's, even if your character is a caricature, it's a person. So just live through it and live through the scene. And so I think that's one thing that definitely helps me a lot as I'm trying to go through something and just make it natural, is just be in it. Just be in the scene.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And, whenever I think that question is asked to anybody, I don't think anyone has a straightforward answer. Because, honestly, I know some of the characters that I've been asked to voice, some of them, some of them didn't have any previous, any previous creations, any previous, like media to draw off of. So it's like I basically have to try to figure out where the heck am I gonna like what direction do I need to take it? Where am I gonna draw like the like you said, like the emotional background to them, the emotional like feelings that that character feels. Like are they lighthearted? Are they cold-hearted? Are they evil? Are they good? Are they whatever it may be? It's like like finding that one direct thing to kind of like give you that push towards what the character is. It's never easy. At least for me, I don't think it ever gets any easier because like I know Raj, I know you've done a little bit more, and I know Abbie, I know you're just getting started, but like probably so like from your experience, like the characters you have done voices for, Raj, like have you kind of noticed that like each character obviously each character is different, but there's like that different kind of like motivation behind them, I guess you could say. So I mean, like, so like, am I correct in assuming that like it's almost impossible to like kind of name one specific thing for a character? Or
I mean, yeah, I don't think there is one specific motivation that goes in that is a catch-all for all characters. I think each one, you draw. I think it's exactly what Abbie said. Honestly, we all have the capacity to have these emotions, these thoughts, whether it be positive or negative. I was going to go into examples, and that was a bad way to go. But whether we have these positive or negative emotions within inside us, it's about bringing it out in a way that people can't tell that you're not being serious. I think that's at its base. That's what good acting is portraying yourself in a way that people have no idea whether you're being serious or not.
Jeez, kind of deep there. I like it though.
Hey, no problem.
So one, not to linger on this question too long, but I guess one thing to kind of follow up on that. So like so Raj, you've done a lot of kind of live action. You've done some voice acting too. Abbie, you've done some musical theater, stage acting, stuff like that. So like in all those experiences, like has there ever been one character thus far that you kind of, I don't want to say got lost in, but like you kind of related to more on a personal level, like that? Like if you were to look back right now through everything you've done, like is there one character it's like, yeah, this one I think actually really made like me, like the personality I presented was like almost like how I am like as a person.
Yeah, I played Seidel in Fiddler on the Roof, and at least the way that I interpreted the character was very similar to the way that I am as a person, and I think that does make a character a lot easier to play when it's somebody who's a lot like you, because again, it's a lot easier to put yourself into their shoes if it's basically you.
Absolutely. I guess for my part, I kind of have a cheaty answer, because when I was starting out, a friend of mine in film school, and we were both in film classes, we made a film that kind of combined both of our lived experiences, and he wanted me to be the actor in it. In fact, it's that poster right there is one of the posters for that film.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I kind of started in portraying a slightly heightened version of myself, a very depressed, very sad character. But that's what I was at the time. I guess it's my only true time of like actual method acting, but it wasn't like intentional. It was just like, I'm sad, we're gonna make a sad movie, here we go. Like it kind of worked. But yeah, that was I had a lot of fun doing that, despite my emotional state at the time. And yeah, I don't know if I've ever really touched a character or been touched by a character like that since. I've had tons of fun. I think I enjoy playing characters that are less like me, rather than more like me, because that's really why I got into acting. Actually, being a very shy and reserved person, I kind of got into acting so I could show people, like, look, I can do all these things. I can be somebody else that's not just this guy in the corner of the room. Like, oh, I'm too shy to talk to people. So yeah, I like doing characters that are actually further away from myself. I think one of my favorite things to do would be to play a villain, even if it was kind of like myself. I think just playing a villain would be awesome.
Yeah, because, well, me who has voiced a few even villains for my own projects. Yeah, it's oddly fun to play a villain. It feels good, but it feels wrong at the same time. But then, like, once you get done with it, it's like, but this was like extremely fun. It's like, and I would do this again. I don't know why, but I would definitely do this again. So it's like, yeah, but yeah. So if anyone who is watching, just to let you know, you can voice villains. Just don't get caught up in it. Just heads up. No. But yeah, but awesome. And I'm glad that you guys have had that experience where there has been one character that you've portrayed that it's like, yeah, this is probably the one that was most personal to me, that really, that allowed me to show my inner self through how I portray this character. And I think as the years went on, for my 11th Doctor, for instance, you could definitely tell that the 11th Doctor was definitely becoming more like my personal self. Like you could still tell that it was the 11th Doctor that I was portraying, but you could also tell there was like an aspect of my actual personal life that was added to his character. So yeah, so I don't know. I just think, yeah, it's nice for an actor or actress to have that one moment in their kind of career or starting of the career, because it really does give kind of a propelling moment in their lives to kind of be like, all right, here's a role that I really want to make personal. How can I do that? And then they can look back on the one role that they did have that personal connection and be with and be like, okay, so this is where I can go from there. That's awesome. And honestly, I think for anybody, like even people who are acting for like community theater, stuff like that. Because back in the day, I used to do community theater when I was younger. I wasn't quite a teen when I started, but yeah, like when I was young, like none of that, really entered my head. I was like, oh, I'm a 10-year-old playing a kid of a mom, of a dad, and this is just so much fun. And then fast forward 5, 6, 7 years later, and it's like, oh, okay, so I am playing a rancher who is fighting with cowboys over some land, and it's a personal thing. So it's like, now I really have to start thinking, okay, what mindset do I really want to be in for this? Like, so yeah, so that's awesome. And I honestly hope for who's ever watching this, if that's kind of the motivation you kind of need for if you're acting, for voice acting, live action, stage, musical, you name it, whatever media it is that you're performing in. I honestly hope that kind of gives you just the push you need to kind of, take whatever direction and that medium you're going in the direction you want to go. But gosh, that was great answers, everybody. Good job. I am genuinely impressed with all the answers today. So, gosh, it's awesome. So I'm going to kind of turn it around. Now, I didn't tell you two about this part because I didn't want to. I wanted to kind of surprise you, but one thing I noticed from interviews from that I watch of like actual like Hollywood actors, stuff like that, is it's usually, for the most part, one-sided questions. So it's like the host asking the actor, actress questions. Now, I want to give you two the opportunity to ask me any questions. It can be about the series. It can be about like my journey in acting, voice acting, you name it, or like how my upcoming was, or whatever. If you'd like to, because I like to make sure everything is even-sided. So, is there any questions that you guys can think of that you'd like to ask? If not, that's perfectly fine. But I like giving the opportunity to do so. So the floor is yours if you guys have anything to ask.
I've been wanting to ask you actually about about what your story has been and how you got into this and how you got where you are right now. Obviously you're, again, super busy and doing lots of projects. So I'd love to hear how that all started and how you got to your present positions.
So let's see. Rewind back to 2013. Is initially when my spark for film acting, film editing, stuff like that kind of took place. Originally, I was a part of a film group. Well, I say film group. It was loosely a film group. It was just basically a bunch of friends that did stuff on the weekends. But I mean, that's usually how most groups start. So,
Yeah.
And I was a part of that group, and I helped them out every once in a while when I could. Because obviously I was still in sports, so sometimes on the weekends, like Saturdays, you'd have like practices, so I wasn't always available. But yeah. So once that group kind of took off, there were a few projects that got done, and a few projects I helped them on. But about my junior or senior year of high school, the guy who was kind of in charge of the group moved back to Florida. So initially, the group that he had formed weren't really doing anything anymore. So I kind of stepped in and was like, well, there's some stuff I would love to do if you guys are interested. And there were a few projects that I was actually able to kind of get off the ground with that crew, and I think only one managed to make it out, but then somehow, even with it making it out, didn't quite make it to the public's eye. It maybe did for a day, but then it disappeared. I don't quite remember what happened to it, but regardless, over the years, once I graduated high school, went to college in Chicago for film and post-production, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Cinema Arts and Science. Haven't done much with a degree yet, but still trying. I kind of made the group my own. So by the time I got to college, I don't even remember what the group's name was before, but I essentially rebranded the group Van Wyck Productions, because the most production names are pretty much just your last name, add the word productions to it, and there you go. So that's what I did. And my first actual projects that I did under the name Van Wyck Productions was the story of the Doctor Who series that I think 6.5 years running now, has continued. And the first one was the live action, which started with the 12th Doctor, went to the 13th, 14th, then went back audio-wise, filled in my Doctor stuff, and then kind of went from there. But really, how I was even able to kind of do like direct really the people for that was from my time when I was doing like the community theater stuff, like because when I was in those productions, like because I was in Annie, I was in South Pacific, Oklahoma, stuff like that. You know, obviously each show had its own different style to it, and also the characters acted a different way. Well, the same can be said of Doctor Who. Not all the characters are the same, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be. So I kind of picked up directing kind of from the directors that I worked with on the community theater shows. And plus, I mean, it did help that some of my professors in college did teach me to kind of how to, direct actors more professionally and how to, kind of keep a professional, like vibe on the set. But I think, and hopefully you'll notice this with me, but some of the actors I have worked with when I was back in Chicago, say some of them have said like, working on set with me, like I was like, I tried to stay as professional as possible, but I also like to have fun. Like I feel like if you're just strictly professional, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're strictly professional, it's like, well, you get everything done. It's like, okay, great. But then it's like by the end of the day and everyone leaves, it's like, oh, thank goodness that's done. Unlike if you are like mostly professional, but you still have, fun on the side. It's like, okay, it's like, yeah, this was a long day, but you know what? We had fun. We did some fun stuff, and we maybe had a few jokes here and there, and it's like, all right, that's awesome. And so obviously I've tried to keep that. I think I've kept it through the years. I guess I'll find out if that's true or not. I don't know. But really it was college that I started at the actual voice acting part of my journey. And at first it was like really just for fun, just a hobby, and it still kind of is just a hobby. I mean, I would like to take it professionally. The only thing is most of the projects that I've auditioned for, if I can even get time to audition for something, my voice wasn't quite up to par to what they were looking for. And it didn't help though too at the beginning that my gear that I use weren't exactly up to like what most voice actors used. Because like back then, all I had was like a headset with a microphone on it and GarageBand, and that's all I had. Now nowadays I have a Logic Pro X, which is a little more robust than like GarageBand is, and I also have a professional mic. Well, for the most part, I have a Yeti with a pop filter to filter everything out, and so now my voice definitely sounds a lot more clear when I record stuff. But I mean, voice wise for me, definitely I'm growing, but I personally don't think I'm quite at the point where people kind of want me for professional projects. And that's fine because honestly, like at this point, it's like, well, as long as I'm still doing projects I enjoy, I'm okay with that. If I do happen to be a part of a professional project, that's awesome. I'm fully ecstatic for that. That's great. But I will still stick with the characters that I personally like to voice, and every once in a while I will try one of those oddball roles that's like, okay, this is different, but heck, I'll give it a try. And sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, and that's how it goes. So that's kind of my voice acting journey here. Now, composing wise, so that one kind of started also in high school. Well, actually, no, it started before that because what my setup for composing right now is I just have literally just a keyboard and a MIDI plugin that I plug into Logic Pro X, because I use that for both recording music and my voice. And I took, oh gosh, like 8-9 years of piano lessons to kind of get to where I'm at musically now. And the one thing I've noticed as I played more and more, like if you go back on my YouTube channel, there's a section of all my soundtracks I've done. If you look at the first season of my Doctor Who series that I did the soundtrack for, and you compare that to like the one I did for, well, like for the Paradoxical Dilemma, for instance, you'll notice a huge difference in like the quality of it, just how more professional sounding it is. And that's just because of me just constantly, repeatedly, doing more and more work with my piano or keyboard. But also I've kind of learned, so one thing someone also recommended to me is whatever style of music you want to be able to create, listen to that type of music as much as you can. And I am one of those people that I listen to, so it's technically under the epic music category. So basically what that is it's most of the time it's no words at all, just instrumentals, orchestra, sometimes electronic, stuff like that. But I kid you not, if you looked at my favorites on my YouTube channel, I probably have at least 2,000 videos and still growing of just music like that I just listen to constantly. And I think that's started to impact how I play, because I even had one project that I composed for, and the guy, he's a good friend of mine too, but he was actually telling someone else, and he's like, I just wanted to pass this on to you, but he's like the music that you compose for this project compared to how you used to sounds a lot more cinematic than it did like 3-4 years ago. And I'm like thank you, that's honestly a good compliment, because one, it means I'm growing in the way I need to grow, and then two, it means I'm doing something right. So but yeah, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. I know kind of drug that out a little too long, but that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm starting to get back into live action acting, mainly with just green screen for right now, through my vlog series, which the first episode's done, but it's just getting down to writing more of them, and actually doing it more, where luckily I get to portray my 11th Doctor just kind of in a relaxed setting, so it's kind of nice. But yeah, that's essentially how I got to where I am now. So hopefully hopefully that long-winded explanation was good for you. So, but yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions, or did I pretty much cover everything?
I mean, that covered everything. I think I was gonna ask specifically, what draws you to do these fan projects, such as the Star Wars and obviously the Doctor Who. Like, is it merely fandom, or is there more like, I don't know. I'm interested in hearing your motivations, I suppose.
Yeah, so definitely fandom. Fandom plays a big part of it, because obviously I like to do projects within the things that I like, I know more about, I have a personal connection with. But also, like, the one thing I've done with my Doctor Who series is, like I said with the Shakri, like the Shakri only show up one time in Doctor Who. I am making an entire season with them being the main antagonist. What I like to do, like, with my series is I like to make smaller characters kind of get more of the spotlight, kind of get more like exposure, basically, and take them directions like it still follows how they were kind of portrayed in the like actual BBC series, but it also adds like another element to them that's like, oh yeah, these guys could actually like, we didn't realize they could actually be this dangerous. Like they could actually do this much damage. Now, like with Star Wars, for instance, that one. So kind of like how they're doing. Whenever they're doing it, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is like taking place between episode 3 and episode 4, kind of that unknown time period of whatever happened between, Palpatine rising to power and the actual, Empire. I've tried to incorporate aspects of what is known in that canon and kind of like what's known from what's told in future movies. But I also try to add like a new element to it. So like, for instance, the first Star Wars audio I did was The Hidden Jedi, which introduced 2 new Padawans to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, obviously, that's not technically canon, but at the same time, it's within that period. It's like, well, he could have had 2 new Padawans, even though most of the Jedi were, executed in Order 66. But it's like, well, what if he did? What if he did take on 2 new, trainees to kind of bring back the Jedi? Now, of course, spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to the first one of the Padawans do end up sacrificing themselves for the other one to live. Now, Abbie probably knows the result of the other Padawan and the second one because she's probably read the script already. But I think what I did with the second one is I kind of did what Rise of Skywalker tried to do, and that's make the main character like show the darker side of her. Because there's that one scene when Rey goes into the destroyed Death Star, and you see the dark side Rey. I kind of go that direction with the second Padawan and the second Star Wars audio. So like I try to build upon ideas that were presented and try to add my own spin to it while still trying to respect the main like source material. And like I do that. Let's see what other projects. Well, and like for instance, so like A New Journey. So that is a part of like a trilogy series, which is for the most part it's pretty linear, but like I have a lot of like it's the Deep Journey and then A New Journey. So those are a 2-part like prequel to the first part of it. And then obviously like after the first official part, there's like 3 mini episodes that lead up to the second part. That I kind of just draw from just things I've seen in media in general. And yeah, so that part's kind of just stuff that pops in my head. I don't know how it pops in my head, but it does. And Raj is probably thinking, yeah, there's some odd stuff that pops in your head. And yes, there is sometimes there is. But one of the actresses for like A New Journey, I even asked her, I'm like, all right, I'm like, be honest with me. I'm like, why did you take this project? Like, why, like, even after reading the script, why did you say, yeah, I'll do this project? And they're like, well, unlike most actors, I actually like to do some weird projects. And I'm like, okay. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. Like, at least in my lifetime, I don't think I've had anyone say, yeah, I like doing weird projects. And they're even like, well, and most people probably like try to turn away from these projects because they're just so out there. And it's like, but I like doing them because they're different and they allow me to kind of do different stuff. I'm like, that's a good reason to do like those type of stories, because then it's like you're stepping out of your comfort zone, but at the same time you're having fun with it. So but yeah, that essentially that's kind of my my thoughts between motivations like behind how I do my Doctor Who series, my Star Wars, or any other projects. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't think I have any more questions, and I'm pretty sure I've covered any other questions that could be asked. So, unless there is anything else, or nope.
Good.
Awesome. All right. Well, it has been great to have you guys finally meet you screen to screen and voice to voice. Finally, to put a face with the words on chat. So I thank you guys for coming today, being a part of this. Again, Raj is playing our 16th Doctor from the new season. Abbie is playing Maxine Powers, the new companion to his 16th Doctor. The series is slated right now to release probably mid-2021, because most likely all my other projects are still going to be getting done before that point, so I'm going to make it as doable as possible. but thank you all for watching this interview. Hopefully you guys get a nice sense of the actors behind the roles. And if you ever have any questions for like the actors, you can always let me know either in the comments, or some of you are a part of my personal like actor page, or actually even the Doctor Who Facebook page I have for the series. You can ask questions there or wherever is possible. But other than that, I think we will wrap it up for the night. So thank you both for being here tonight, and I look forward to working with you guys moving forward on the series.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Same here. It was a pleasure indeed.
All right. Have a great night or morning, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.